what's weird? I've never actually talked about Undertale before. It's one of the most popular games ever created.
Its majesty, untouched and untarnished by the plebs, normies, and average Joe Schmo.
It's heartfelt, unique, mysterious, and really reflective of how gaming and internet culture have become
symbiotic.
Oh my god! Oh, so that explains why I've been playing fan games for like 2 years straight.
SpaceHamster.
Okay, but seriously, it's the type of game that doesn't really hold your hand. Alright, it holds it a little bit. It's pretty simplistic in its nature and storytelling at face value, and it only lasts about a few hours if you know what you're doing or it's your second time through the game. You play as an unknown human who falls into the underground, who then has to discover this new world's rules and characters. One of the reasons that people really enjoyed this game was its characters. In fact, the game's trailer touts the fact that it's the friendly RPG where nobody has to die. Oh, did he just wink at me? I don't know if I liked it. And why would you want to kill them? These characters are adorable and stupid and really great and sarcastic. And really dumb. It's the kind of game where the characters are so enjoyable that you don't want to fight them. Instead, through clever design and subverting your expectations of a normal RPG, it decides to mess with you and make you think outside the box a bit. It tells you everything that you need to know, and then it tricks you into making mistakes and feeling bad. Did you kill Go Mom? Did you kill Go Mom and then reset the game? I know what you did. You're a bad person. The game adapts, and it knows more than you'd think, making for a pleasantly unique experience that hopefully went unspoiled for you. It sets up this whole new world with interesting and unique characters. It has a lot of mystery and a variety of outcomes depending on what you did throughout the game. And it breaks the fourth wall pretty frequently. It knows it's a game, and it knows you as the player have control over your own actions and uses that against you. And all that for something that looks like this! This isn't Red Dead Redemption 2 we're talking about! Mass Effect SSX!
It's the type of game that was exactly needed at exactly the right time in gaming, which is why it would probably be one of the hardest games to make a sequel for. Which brings us to the topic.
Deltarune is the new turn-based RPG that takes place in the Undertale universe. And by in, I mean kinda like around it, or parallel to it. It's kinda confusing. In this game, we play as the character Chris, who aside from looking similarly to the previous Undertale protagonist, and looking like a very specific character you can only find by doing the genocide run, is thrusted into the underworld to face off against all manner of foes, usually weird, sarcastic, and eccentric types. Like these guys who just want to be flattered! Just flatter them! The story begins with this trippy sequence where you pick from a variety of body parts to build what the game describes as a vessel. You choose the way your vessel looks and answer a few other kinda disturbing questions as well. Only after it all does the game trash the design and say that none of it matters! What the heck? No one can choose who they are in this world. So we're Chris, a new character who happens to be living with Toriel, a character from the previous game. In fact, we'll run into a lot of reoccurring characters from Undertale, but most of them are saved primarily for the beginning and the end of the game. We'll even run into various enemies and side characters that have new roles. So we're supposed to be in school, and once we arrive and head to class, we find out that we need a new partner for a project. Alfie's another reoccurring character is even the teacher of this class. As far as I can tell too, the reoccurring characters are really similar to their counterparts in Undertale. For example, Alphys is still really into anime, and Asgore, who you see later in the game, is the owner of a flower shop, symbolically relevant to where you find him in the original game, and to his backstory as well. This is where we're introduced to Susie, one of the main characters of the game. And a bully. I can't believe this! Eventually, we're supposed to grab some more chalk from the supply closet and quickly find out that something is wrong, thus thrusting our characters into adventure! We wake up in the underground with a new sweet sprite and start to traverse this weird and interesting world. Eventually, we meet up with Susie and find our way to a village where a cloaked figure appears. The cloaked figure is revealed to be the prince of the land and tells us a legend. In this legend, the legend of the Deltarune, it speaks of light and dark being in perfect balance and harmony, and if one was ever greater than the other, it would be catastrophic for the world. It foretells that if the Earth was ever in peril, 3 heroes would emerge: a human, a monster, and a prince from the dark. And that they would have to work together to bring balance back to the world. The cloaked figure is actually a character called Rousey, or Rousey, which completes the trio of characters we'll sort of have throughout the game. And I say sort of for a very specific reason. But we'll get to that, because now that we're complete, the adventure officially begins! Oh, never mind, Susie left. She left the party, guys. This time around, the combat system has been expanded on a bit more. We now have a party of 3 characters instead of solely playing as the human from the first game. Each of the characters has their own personalities and will even sometimes take actions on their own. In fact, one of the more interesting mechanics is that you don't really get along with Susie at all. I mean, she kinda is the bully. She'll do things on her own and not particularly care about your orders, which basically amounts to her attacking things that I don't want her to attack! No! Barry!
I am so sorry about that.
I'm with you guys on this one. This actually creates a really interesting dynamic, though, where you have someone in your party who is actually a detriment to you at almost all times, depending on how you want to play. And I say that because depending on how you want to play is kind of important, because this game carries over a lot of the mechanics from the first game. You can fight, which allows you to attack things directly, or alternatively, you can act, which allows you to solve battles through puzzle-like methods that allow you to show mercy on your enemies instead of fighting them. I'm not really sure how important it's going to be to the overall story this time. There's likely going to be a lot of minor differences depending on how you play the game, but the overall feeling that I get from playing it is that your decisions don't matter. In fact, it's a recurring theme and one of the first things that's told to you in the game. I'm not exactly sure how I feel about this yet, as this is just the first chapter of the game of possibly many in the future, but it does seem like that this game has more of a fixed narrative so far, but it's also entirely possible that this is a calculated misdirection intentionally made by Toby Fox. You know, the guy who f***ed with everyone in the first game. That's the thing about this, it seems like it takes place in the world of Undertale, but it's different. Almost like it's an alternate timeline with the same characters and concepts, but it just had a different outcome and led down a completely different path. In fact, throughout the game, if you're anything like me, you can't help but wonder where this is all taking place in the overarching story. Is it a sequel? Is it a prequel? Does it take place in the same timeline as Big Trouble in Little China, one of the greatest movies ever made? No. No, it doesn't. One of the things you'll notice immediately about Deltarune is it still has really well-written and likable characters right off the bat, namely Lancer, one of the main antagonists of the game. It's great because he doesn't really know how to be bad, so he ends up putting you in these really odd situations that subvert normal RPG battle systems. And it really makes for some lighthearted encounters. In fact, the story of the game isn't initially really about Chris at all. It's more about Susie and her character development as she goes from someone with no friends to someone who has many, and how even just having a few friends can really change you as a person. It still doesn't change the fact that the entire time, you feel like a clawing, scratching, conniving feeling that something is off big time and you're just being led down a very specific path because of the way the characters are interacting with you. It's like Toby Fox is behind you, his fingers brushing on the back of your neck. That may actually be the problem with this. If it's trying to be a more straightforward storytelling experience, but use the same characters and world as a game that actively f**ks with you, you'll always be second-guessing yourself and overanalyzing every minute detail of the game. Is Rousey just being nice? Or is he purposefully telling you to save all the characters because this is essentially just the opposite of the first game and how Flowey tries to guide you to kill things?
I'm on to you, but also I could be
overthinking it now.
Most of the experiences and plot shown throughout this video probably don't really mean anything to you out of context. It's really the type of game that you have to play for yourself because it's so focused on character dialogue or little humorous, witty details.
I will say that I enjoyed the story the whole way through, even though it kind of felt like the Sands and Papyrus section before Snowden, that section of the game, for the entire game, if that makes sense. That's not inherently a bad thing either, I'm just making an observation. The battle system changes are definitely welcome, like the fact that you can physically see the enemies on the map before getting into battle. But once you're in battle, because every character cannot act themselves, you end up having to play defensively a lot of the time, specifically waiting for Chris's turn. And the enemies respawn, so there ends up being a decent amount of downtime in the battles, where you end up having to do the same actions over and over again. And you kind of just have to sit there and keep doing it. Fundamentally speaking, having a party of 3 characters with a similar battle system to the first game might not really work, or at least it might make doing the pacifist route a little more tedious. But again, that might not really matter as much in this game if the theme of the game is that your choices don't matter.
Now, I'm not a super big theory guy or anything like that, but I did think it would be kind of cool to end off this video by talking about some of the secrets or Easter eggs throughout the game that I noticed after my first playthrough, because you never know, maybe there'll be some relevant ones in there that'll come back around full circle, or maybe they're just cool.
Like the fact that when you go to the first save point in the game, you actively save over Chris's save file. What about if you use the cell phone in the underground, you get this creepy sound? If you go to the graveyard in town and check the headstones, you'll actually see the grave of the tortoise archaeologist from Undertale, Gerson, who was ironically the person to teach you about the Deltarune in Undertale. While we're here in the area south of town, you'll find this shelter that emits a really creepy noise. When Susie is fighting Lancer, it's actually impossible to die. When Susie's health gets low enough, the attacks just avoid her. The door that you use throughout the game to fast travel back to earlier areas is basically identical to the door that's in Sans' house in Undertale, which could imply some sort of similar connection and maybe that's how Sans gets around, I don't know. At the very end of the game, after the big reveal happens, you can actually move the human soul around while it's in the cage. Look. You can move it. This guy kind of looks like Gaster! Right? I mean, I'm right? Undyne has 2 eyes. Look at those eyes. Look at him. Look at those sexy eyes.
Well, at least those are a few of the things that I noticed after my first playthrough. I'm sure there's plenty more, and if you want to, feel free to leave some comments about any Easter eggs or little secrets you find in the comments down below. So Deltarune, what'd you guys think? I'll leave a link in the description down below if you guys still haven't played the game and you want to download it and give it a whirl for yourself. Though I realize now that if you watch this video and then go download the game, boy did I sure spoil a lot of things for you. That's kind of your own fault though. I'm not gonna take responsibility for your
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to subscribe to the channel, comment down below, and do all the things. You guys know what's up. One of you better at least click that bell. One of you. Hope you enjoyed this kind of general review for Deltarune. I don't really do a lot of these that often, so if you liked it, be sure to let me know, and I'll maybe try and do some more stuff like this in the future. And if you just can't wait for more videos, I got 2 more videos for you right there. Also, I'm playing Wind Waker Randomizer over on the Gameplay channel on PB and Jeff, so go check that out.